Ordinary Angels tells the true story of a hairdresser who rallies a community to help a widowed father with a sick daughter who is desperately in need of a liver transplant. Actress Hilary Swank portrays hairdresser Sharon Stevens, and Reacher's Alan Ritchson portrays the father, Ed Schmitt, who has been struggling to pay his family's mounting medical bills. Things come to a head on January 17th, 1994, when a record-breaking winter storm hits Louisville, Kentucky. That same day, the family gets the transplant call notifying them that a liver is ready for Michelle, and she has just hours to make it to the Children's Hospital in Omaha, Nebraska. While the movie claims to be based on a true story and is adapted from Sharon Stevens' biography, there are, however, significant portions that are fictionalized. In this video, we are going to separate the facts from the fiction to answer the question, how accurate is Ordinary Angels? This is Ordinary Angels, History versus Hollywood. The first thing to note about Ordinary Angels is that it condenses the real story's timeline somewhat. Ed's wife, Theresa Schmitt, had passed away a year and a half prior to the snowstorm in August 1992. The movie pushes her death up to 1993, closer to the events that unfold in the film. In real life, hairdresser Sharon Stevens, portrayed by Hilary Swank in the film, did not just spend a matter of months helping the family, she spent almost 3 years helping to raise money for the family's medical expenses. In her book, she states, "I spent almost 3 years prior to her transplant raising money for medication, hospital runs to Omaha, and housing for the family. Her needs consumed my heart, and she was a blessing to me." Of course, she's referring to Michelle Schmitt, Ed's youngest daughter, who was growing increasingly ill as she waited for a liver transplant. Sharon Stevens did first meet Michelle Schmitt at her mother's funeral, which is depicted in the film. It's true that Michelle's mother, Theresa Schmitt, had died of complications from a rare disease known as Wegener's granulomatosis. The movie incorrectly states that Theresa was 35 at the time of her death. In reality, she was actually 29 when she passed away. Depicting them as being older in the film is almost certainly due to the fact that there are older actors portraying them. Amy Acker, who portrays Theresa, was in her 40s when the film was shot in 2021, and Alan Ritchson was in his late 30s at the time. As stated in the film, Ed's daughter Michelle Schmitt suffered from a rare disease known as biliary atresia, a condition in which the bile ducts inside and outside the liver are blocked, leading to liver deficiencies. What's not focused on in the film is that Michelle's older sister Ashley had also been born with biliary atresia. She had undergone a liver transplant in 1991 at age 3 when her mother was still alive. Ashley's transplant was a success. At this point, I want to discuss what is perhaps the biggest deviation from the real story behind Ordinary Angels, and that is the depiction of Sharon Stevens as an alcoholic. In reality, Sharon Stevens was never an alcoholic. It was kind of surprising to learn this, given how much of a role her drinking plays in the film. The only truth to the talk of alcoholism in the film is that the real Sharon Stevens did grow up in a home plagued by alcoholism. Both of her adoptive parents had been alcoholics, and her mother died from liver cancer brought on by years of heavy drinking. However, in her book, she writes that she vowed from a young age that she would never let alcohol control her life as it did her parents, stating, "I promised myself I would never allow myself to become a slave to alcohol as my mother was." And commendably, she never did. This is why it's rather unfortunate that the filmmakers chose to dramatize her character in this way, because it's such a contradiction to who she really was and what she stood against. She was known for her forwardness and won't take no for an answer personality, which the movie seems to accurately capture. Hilary Swank's character mentions that she is divorced, having been married to a musician who chose his career over her, and out of that marriage came her son Derek. This is historically accurate. However, in real life, she had been divorced twice by that time. She had gone through a second marriage in the 1970s, which led to her other son, Corey, who is not mentioned in the film. The movie depicts Sharon Stevens as having a strained relationship with her son, Derek. However, this is entirely fictional. According to Sharon's biography, her relationship with her son was never strained. The book describes Derek as being a great source of love and strength for Sharon, and always has been. Much of the contention between Sharon and her son in the movie comes from the fact she had been an alcoholic, which is fictionalized and wasn't the case in real life. In Ordinary Angels, Sharon's good friend Rose, who she works at the beauty salon with, helps to keep her on the straight and narrow. Tamala Jones' character Rose takes Sharon to AA meetings and helps her fundraise for Michelle Schmitt. However, Rose appears to be a fictional character who is at best an amalgamation of various friends in Sharon's life. There is no mention of Rose in Sharon Stevens' book on which the movie is based. In researching the Ordinary Angels' true story, I discovered that Sharon Stevens did learn about the Schmitt family through a newspaper article. She told WTVQ, "I saw a news article, and I'm not one to read the newspaper every day. It just happened to be there. I read it. A couple weeks later, the children that needed the help, their mother died before the second little girl got her transplant, and it broke my heart." Something that the film unfortunately entirely leaves out is Sharon Stevens' own relationship with God. She had been attending Southeast Christian Church, which is the parking lot that they later used to land the helicopter. Prior to helping the Schmitt family, Sharon had completed training to become a commissioned volunteer care minister. After reading the newspaper article, Sharon called Chuck Lee, a minister at her church. She told Chuck that she wanted to find a way to help the Schmitt family. It was then that she learned that the girl's mother, Theresa Schmitt, had died the day prior. She discovered that the church had already been helping the family, and she found ways to help as well. According to the Courier-Journal, Sharon Stevens raised tens of thousands of dollars to help the family cover their expanding medical expenses. One lingering question I had was, did Sharon Stevens get Ed Schmitt's wife's hospital debt erased? You might be surprised to learn that this did happen in real life, and it unfolded somewhat like it does in the film. The bill for Ed Schmitt's wife Theresa's intensive care and life support before her death totaled over $600,000. Sharon called and spoke to the hospital administrator about potentially canceling or lowering the amount. She then spent approximately 3 days working with the administration and social workers, who told her they would reach out to her after they investigated it further. Not even a week went by before letters arrived from the hospital stating that they would cancel all out-of-pocket expenses to the family. It's also true that Sharon Stevens called airlines and corporations in town in an attempt to secure several private planes to be at the ready whenever the Schmitt family got the transplant call. A jet was needed to fly Ed Schmitt's daughter Michelle roughly 600 miles to Omaha, Nebraska, where the liver transplant operation would take place. In real life, Sharon managed to secure 4 private jets, which is what she set out to get. The Ordinary Angels movie depicts Ed Schmitt's daughter Michelle as being 5 years old. However, in researching the true story, we learned that the real Michelle Schmitt was still a toddler at the time. She was just 3 years old when the events in the movie unfolded. The snowstorm that strikes in the movie is largely accurate to the real-life accounts of the storm that hit Louisville during the overnight hours of January 17, 1994. Rain came down first that left a coating of ice, and on top of that, nearly 16 inches of snow fell in approximately 8 hours, setting a new single-day snowfall record for Louisville. Abandoned cars littered the roadsides, and travel was virtually impossible. Kentucky's governor also closed the interstates. No one was going anywhere, Michelle's sister Ashley told WDRB. Though most of you watching this video will have seen the film, I should warn you here that there will be significant spoilers ahead in case you haven't seen it. Something you might have noticed if you watched the real-life footage at the end of the film is that the shoveling of the parking lot actually happened in the daylight hours. The movie fictionalizes this as happening at night. As I mentioned earlier, the real-life storm happened during the overnight hours. The family got the transplant call at 9 in the morning, and the struggle to get to the airport unfolded throughout the day. In the movie, Ed Schmitt hurries and loads his daughter Michelle into the truck, and he tries to make it to the airport on the snow-covered and largely impassable roads, some of which were closed. He eventually encounters a fallen tree and is unable to move it off the road. Realizing that he's not going to make it to the airport in time, he sees a call box on the side of the road and phones the hospital to tell them to give the organ to somebody else. However, at the last second, Sharon's friend Rose's family members arrive in their truck to tell Ed that a helicopter is coming for Michelle and that it's going to land in a church parking lot not far from his house. Ed loads Michelle into their truck, which is better suited for the snow. He jumps behind the wheel and takes a shortcut that he knows to get to the church, arriving just in time for the helicopter. All of this is fictional, Ed never left the house with Michelle in his truck. The real Schmitt family was transported to the church parking lot in WHAS Radio's four-wheel drive van, which had been parked outside of their home. The van made it a mile and a half to the church through snow and ice-covered roads. In the movie, Hilary Swank's character calls a TV station to help get the word out that the family needed help. In real life, she actually called a radio station, News Radio 840 WHAS, asking for help. The film substitutes a TV station for the radio station. In the movie, the pastor is the one who comes up with the idea to use the church parking lot as a place for the helicopter to land. In real life, a woman by the name of Theresa, who lived next to the parking lot, was the one who came up with the idea and called the radio station. Of arriving to see the 200 or so volunteers who cleared the church parking lot, Ed Schmitt told the Courier-Journal, "It tore me apart. I fell to pieces. It touched me deeper than I've ever been touched in my entire life." In the movie, they turn their headlights on and lay their jackets down to give the helicopter a target. In real life, it was daytime, but they still tried laying a blue tarp down, but as the helicopter approached, it started to blow around and become a hazard, so they removed it, and the helicopter was still able to land. In Ordinary Angels, Alan Ritchson's character boards the helicopter with Michelle. However, in researching the true story, we learned that it was actually the grandmother, Barbara Schmitt, who rode on the helicopter with Michelle. Ed and Michelle's sister, Ashley, were transported to the airport in the radio station's van that had taken the family to the church parking lot. This is how the entire family made it to the Children's Hospital in Nebraska for the transplant surgery. The movie shows them there as Michelle is waking up after her surgery. Something that the movie doesn't exactly answer is whose liver did Michelle Schmitt receive? Michelle received the liver of a 7-year-old Kansas boy by the name of Brian Friesen. Brian had died suddenly of a brain aneurysm the day prior on January 16th. After the successful transplant surgery, the Schmitt family eventually met the Friesens, and the two families developed a close friendship. The movie does offer some insight as to what became of Michelle after her transplant surgery. She grew up and attended college in her hometown at Spalding University. Both she and her sister Ashley underwent kidney transplants in 2011. Their kidneys had been damaged from the years of daily pills that they had been taking. Michelle received the kidney from her best friend Crystal. In 2015, her father Ed walked her down the aisle when she married a man by the name of David Cobble. She was employed at the University of Louisville Pediatrics Department as a medical receptionist. In 2019, she told the Courier-Journal that she thanks God, the donor, her family and friends, and the hundreds of people who came together to help for saving her life. So as not to end the movie on a depressing note, the filmmakers chose not to inform the audience that tragically, the real Michelle Schmitt died from a stomach aneurysm in May 2021 when she was 31. The movie was being filmed that same month. Her sister Ashley told WDRB that Michelle would appreciate Ordinary Angels and would want it to be a source of inspiration for others. Ashley said that the film will help keep her memory alive. She told the Courier-Journal that people who don't know her story or the importance of organ donation will understand that now. If you want to learn more about the real story behind Ordinary Angels and how it differs from the movie, check out our article over on historyversushollywood.com that's linked in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Anchors away, my friends.